This is Kugan Cassius for iFLTV. Delighted to be joined by correspondent Gareth A.Davies, who's in Dallas still. Hi,
I
Gareth.
am. I am. I'm very well. Nice to see you, Cougs. I'm at Dallas Fort Worth Airport, just around the corner from the Hyatt in the Hickory joint, just having some brisket, ribs, and a salad before getting on the overnight flight back to London after a fascinating week in Dallas around Mike Tyson, Jake Paul, Amanda Serrano, and Katie Taylor. Not to mention Mario Barrios and Abel Ramos, who were extraordinary on Friday night as well.
Right, let's jump straight into it because you're eating. I've just ordered food and we got to do shit. So let's crack straight onto it. When you were watching it, Gareth, what was your sentiments? What were you feeling as you saw what we saw as, despite it being Mike Tyson, a 58-year-old in the ring with a 27-year-old?
Well, grandfather time waits for no one, and that's what we saw. Mike couldn't get his body to do what his mind wanted him to do after a couple of rounds into the fight, and it was a tough. It was a very tough. So I got people eating around me as well, but it's a very tough night for him. I'm glad he got through the 8 2-minute rounds. I don't like to see him take the 78 punches he took from Jake Paul. But it was an amazing spectacle. It was an amazing build-up all week. It was great to be around Mike. He's a very dignified human being, and he knows how to play the fight game. He earned 20 million. We understand. What did I make of it while he was being beaten? Well, we're just hoping for more from him. It was a roll back the years nostalgia moment with him coming out in front of 72,000 people. It was a moment that we all kind of wanted him to roll back the years and do something special, but it wasn't there anymore. I didn't like the strapping on his knee as he walked out. I thought, oh, whoops. And as he revealed after the event, or his son Amir might have revealed, he had 8 blood transfusions back in April when he was injured or when he had the hernia, or the ulcer. He did everything he needed to do in the promotion. We went back and forth all week with different people like Roy Jones Jr. and I was out here with Talk Sport and Spencer Oliver and the Telegraph, and you just thought, can Jake really do anything against Mike? But Mike didn't have the legs. That was his problem. And he didn't have the legs after a few minutes to be able to maneuver himself into the position he needed to be in. So it was what it was. Jake Paul has elevated himself to another level. Mike Tyson was very much the A-side, Kugan. And what he did was bring eyeballs to the sport again. Even though it was an unusual and slightly bizarre matchup, 65 million people on Netflix were able to watch it free. Can only be good for boxing. Even though people will complain, yeah, but it's just the casuals. People will be talking about boxing again, and they were talking about Mike Tyson. I don't think we'll see him in a ring again, but it was just a moment in time. We were seduced by all those clips on him that he'd be able to do something, and he just wasn't. So there we have it.
Was it difficult for you to watch?
Yeah, it was. I think it was difficult for everybody to watch because the signs of wear and tear and a tough life were there. But you were just hoping the entire time you'd be able to do something. Jake Paul is a big, strong, 27-year-old neophyte boxer who's obsessed with the sport, who will do good and meaningful things in his life eventually because he's got such a resonance with the young audience. And he's looking for that, by the way. He's addicted to boxing. Yeah, it was difficult to watch at times. It was difficult to watch. And as I said, I didn't want to see Mike take those 78 punches. But he's a proud man and a proud warrior. And even though he'll have been disappointed in some ways with his performance, I thanked him earlier in the week for doing it. And I don't think anyone had thanked him from the media for putting himself on the line, for maybe doing something for people in their 50s, so you can get back in shape, you can get back in there. But yeah, this wasn't the Iron Mike of all those years ago. He wasn't the Iron Mike 20 years ago. So it was a shame that he wasn't able to pull out more big punches and land them on Jake Paul, who stayed away for a round or two and then Mike showed his age, and Jake did a good job.
Gareth, when you look at kind of those previous defeats, which were 20 years ago, Danny Williams and Kevin McBride,
Yeah,
that was 20 years ago. And no disrespect to any of those two, but in Tyson's prime, Danny Williams or Kevin McBride, that wouldn't have been the situation. We're talking 20 years on, right? And we're talking Jake Paul, regardless of everyone's thoughts about him, is a fit, arguably in his peak of kind of physique and fitness,
yeah,
27-year-old that kind of showed on that, right?
it did.
It did,
It
yeah,
really did show it.
it did
I
show.
said, you can say father time or even grandfather time. Mike's a grandfather. Father time, grandfather time, wait for nobody. So what we saw was the realization that we were all seduced into wanting him for one night only to bring the darkness again. Remember, I asked him that question in the week. I don't know if you saw it.
I saw
And he
it.
said, no, I'm not just bringing darkness, I'm bringing the devil himself.
Yeah.
He tried to find the devil in him to bring, but he wasn't able to. And, reflecting on it the next day and writing a column in the Telegraph, reflecting for Talk Sport, I found myself just knowing that we were seduced by it. We were seduced by wanting to see an old Mike Tyson or the Iron Mike Tyson. Wanting to see a Mike Tyson capable of beating a young kid who doesn't have many skills yet, but is growing in the sport. And it is what it is. People tune in to see it. There will be some disappointment, but I don't think we'll see Mike boxing again. But that was the moment. The walkout was unbelievable. 70,000 people.
Gareth,
70,000 people, all with their cameras out. 65 million people watching around the world. It was a moment to behold. I got colleagues from the Telegraph, old cynical journos, going, I've never got my phone out to film something like that before, but I found myself held by it, as awful as it was in some ways. That's what my colleague Simon Briggs wrote.
Gareth, let me ask you. I spoke to Bernard Hopkins last night in Riyadh, and he said that he felt,
As you do, as you do.
as you do. Spoke to Hopkins, and this is off camera, and he said to me that he felt that Jake Paul was carrying Mike Tyson for some of them rounds. I've spoke to people that don't believe that's the case, but Hopkins said to me his evaluation of last night is that Jake Paul did take it easy in some of them rounds on Mike Tyson where he could have gone for the kill, so to speak. What do you think about that? Because that's quite interesting to see how they perceive that, whether they think that Jake Paul took a backward step because he didn't actually want to knock Mike Tyson out or stop him.
Well, he was asked that in the post-fight press conference, and he said he didn't go hard on Mike. I mean, he stopped completely with 10 seconds to go to bow and genuflect towards Mike Tyson, which I thought I didn't really enjoy that moment. Mike had had enough, but I kind of wanted Mike to leap across and hit him with a hook. But the old Mike Tyson would have done that. But I think they were done. The exhibition of it was over, if you like. 14-ounce gloves, 2-minute rounds. So it was a different kind of fight. And I think that helped Mike. But of course, Jake's going to say, yeah, I went easy on him. I could have knocked him out. And maybe in real terms he did. But Mike was still quite elusive as well. He didn't get, he took on average 10 punches a round, remember? So I don't know. Maybe Jake could have gone a bit harder. But he was also a bit cautious around Mike as well at times. Because Mike's still, even though he didn't have the legs, which was the thing that held him up, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, maybe my sense is that Jake Paul did hold back a little bit towards the end. But I think we were watching still to see if Mike could pull a punch out of nowhere and also to see whether he'd get to the end. And I think it was the right result in lots of ways. I mean, I had Mike winning the first round and then Jake won the last 7. Dominant.
Gareth, let me ask you about a sensational fight, a rematch between Serrano and Taylor, and that all week that went under the radar because of kind of the magnitude of following from who was tuning in to watch Jake Paul and Mike Tyson. But unquestionably, the fight of the night was an epic encounter, which Katie Taylor edged over Amanda Serrano for a second win over Serrano. It could have possibly have gone either way. Katie Taylor did get the nod on that, but it was absolutely brutal and beautiful to watch.
It was an amazing fight, and 50 million people watched it. So what an extraordinary moment for women's boxing. I thought I had Serrano just pipping the fight. I spoke to Katie afterwards. Katie was delighted to have won it. She wants to fight someone else next, not have a trilogy with Amanda. I saw Alicia Baumgardner yesterday, and Alicia's putting herself forward to go to Europe and have a big fight with Katie. I think that's a really good stylistic matchup. It was it might have gone under the radar where you were, but it didn't go under the radar here because the two women were projected onto a massive stage all week here. They were very much a part of it. Obviously, the headlines were all taken by the fact Mike Tyson was involved.
What I meant,
But
that's what I meant. The headlines were taken from Jake Paul and Mike Tyson, where these two women should have been obviously on a pedestal of their own. They sold out MSG 3 years ago, 2 years ago. This should have been kind of an attention on them only. It was on this event. That's why I'm saying undoubtedly it was obviously went a little bit under the radar compared to the magnitude of Mike Tyson and Jake Paul.
you've got to look at the oxygen of publicity that women's boxing is getting from Jake Paul. Without Jake
Yeah,
Paul,
I agree. I agree.
I know the point you're making, and I understand, but you're not backtracking. You're just explaining it. But that because this is a celebratory thing for Mike Tyson was really fulsome in his praise for the women during the week. Jake Paul set his stall out with Nikita Bidarian and Most Valuable Promotions to create a platform for women's boxing. Amanda Serrano explained that she's now promoting women. The women shared, I believe, a $7 million purse, which was brilliant as well. And 50 million people watched an incredible fight between them, which could have gone either way, in which watching it, I've never seen a cut so bad on someone and someone go on for 5 rounds. It was extraordinary. It was a rough, tough, toe-to-toe battle that seesawed all night and was extraordinary. They're both modern legends of boxing. Katie Taylor is amazing. She's a pioneer for the sport, as is Amanda Serrano. These women will go down as legends. And having this platform to do it on was they couldn't get a bigger platform. You couldn't create one anywhere else. So Mike Tyson and Jake Paul have helped the growth of women's boxing right now.
Yeah, I agree. Listen, the publicity that fight got, 50 million people that tuned in for that fight, obviously 65 plus for the main event, was incredible. Would they have got their numbers outside of this event? Probably not, or most likely not. So, yeah, fair play. Like Netflix, even though there was a few issues on the old Netflix stream last night, which I enjoyed in did manage to watch the main event and most of Serrano and Taylor. But I mean, when you're talking about these kind of numbers, even though it's Netflix, it's a possibility that this kind of stuff happens. So, um, yeah, I mean, it must have been great to have been out there, Gareth.
It was an amazing week. I had very close moments with Mike Tyson during the week. He's a guy I've known a long time, not intimately, but we are kind of, I would say, spiritual friends now, I hope. I got to present him with the book Call of the Warrior this week as well,
All
and
that,
Katie
all that. Yeah.
and Jake, and yeah, he's amazing to be around. He's got such an amazing aura, and you've got to think that he's one of the most recognizable human beings on the planet, and he has been for over 35 years, 40 years, and he's been through thin and thinner. And as I say, I just think he's a very dignified human being now, and he has a very dignified family. I think it was good for him. And if he's earned 20 million out of it, as reportedly said out there, then great, because he put himself on the line. I just think Jake Paul, who he fights next, is going to be interesting. I mean, I don't think he fights Saul Canelo Alvarez next. I think
Carl Froch?
no, I don't. They're not big enough names for Jake Paul, Carl Froch, or Tony Bellew. There's a chance. I think it's more likely he's going to fight a McGregor or Conor McGregor or someone like that, or John Jones from the UFC in boxing, something like that. I mean, Carl Froch has called Jake Paul out before, hasn't he, and said I'd knock him out really quickly. Would he? Probably. Tony Bellew was out here obviously making big noise. He's put himself forward. But I think we'll see Jake Paul in the Olympics in 2028 in Los Angeles if boxing's in the Olympics. I honestly, I really see him being in the Olympics. But I see him fighting the likes of Conor McGregor. I see him in mega events right now. And I think that's where he's headed. Obviously, Tommy Fury, I saw your exclusive with Kalle Sauerland, and I think the rematch with Tommy Fury might have been an interim fight, but Kalle has snaffled Tommy Fury for a fight with Darren Till, which I like. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. That's in February, and there's a press conference on Tuesday, isn't there?
It's in January 18th, and there's a press conference on...
Sorry, not Tuesday, not February, January.
Gareth, the last one before I let you go, obviously a viral moment went from Mike Tyson on Friday in the dressing room. Any thoughts on that? I mean, I don't even know what to say about it. I saw it, it went viral. It's just, I mean, I don't know what to say about it, but it was...
I know Amir Tyson. Obviously, he did the interview with Dad, didn't he, at that moment in the dressing room? I think Mike is a very humorous man. Yeah, he likes the understatement of humor. Like he said about fighting his gloves with his mouth guard all the way through the fight. Yeah. He said he's got this predilection for biting. I think the mouthpiece was loose, to be honest, but well, that was a funny comment. And I think the chaps moment, it looked like he had a pair of chaps on with his buttocks out. It brought the house down. It was a very funny moment.
It was funny.
It was Mike. Maybe that's what Mike's like behind closed doors. It was a fun. Sorry?
I said whether he meant to do it on purpose or not. I mean, it looked quite natural that's what that situation was like.
We were back to The Hangover. I think it was a movie moment. You know, it's a moment that'll be viral forever. And what shape he got himself into, by the way. Yeah, it was a funny moment, and that's all it was. It was him having fun. Sure.
Gareth, thank you very much for talking to iFLTV. Safe flight home. We'll definitely catch up with you at some point this week. And rock on, Mr. Davies.
Peace out, brother. Lovely to see you as always.
Top man. Thank you very much, Gareth A.Davies.